Welcome back for episode 11 of Warhammer 40k Imperium. This will cover issue number 11. And we have the Librarian in Phobos armor. This is learn about the miniatures and psychic powers playthrough. And in this issue, so this issue comes with Librarian and Phobos armor and a medium dry brush. While the brush will be used in later issues paint guides, you'll be able to build and paint your Librarian right away. Then you'll get to unleash your Librarian's potent powers in an all-new playthrough that introduces the psychic phase to your games. Happy game. And of course we have the Librarian himself here. That's going to be pretty fun to paint. Of course, the I believe 40mm base that he comes on. And we also got a Citadel medium dry brush. Okay, Librarian in Phobos armor. Stealthy Psychic Warrior. Librarians are the Space Marine Psychic Warriors. They use their potent warp talents to empower their brothers and destroy their opponents. Librarians who serve in Vanguard formations wear Phobos armor and specialize in psychic disciplines of stealth and misdirection. Librarian in Phobos armor Wargear. Psychic Hood. All Librarians wear these devices when they go into battle. A Psychic Hood amplifies the psychic power of the wearer and protects them against attacks from enemy psykers. Camo Cloak. The chameleon cloaks shift color to match their surroundings, camouflaging the wearer. Force Sword. A Librarian can channel the destructive energies of the warp through this blade and into the bodies of their victims. Librarius Keys. Librarians bear the keys to the chambers and archives of the Librarius in which they serve. Librarius Badges. Librarians display the icons of the Librarius upon their armor. These symbols are usually worn on the knee pads or the right shoulder pad of their power armor. Campaign Badge. Imperial forces serving in the same area of operation display these badges to identify themselves as allies. To serve as a Librarian in the Vanguard, one must master the discipline of obscuration. To learn these powers requires decades of dedicated training. The results, however, speak for themselves. In my time serving with the Vanguard, I have drawn upon the IMPERIUM to cloud the senses of the foe, guide the strikes of my battle brothers, conjure nightmares from shadows, adjust the flow of time, and pluck valuable secrets from the minds of the unwary. With my aid, the Vanguard may strike where the enemy least suspects, sowing confusion and terror in the ranks of our enemies. As Marcellus Avestus, Epistolary Ultramarines. And of course we have the Librarian's battle record. This is bring your model to life by recording its details in the boxes below. The name of every Ultramarine can be traced back to the realm of Altmar. Refer to B background 01 to generate a name. Librarians are psychic warriors who wield warp powers to benefit their allies and bring doom to their foes. Clad in Phobos armor, Librarians of the Vanguard assist their brothers in missions of stealth and sabotage. Name: Mephiston, Varro Tigerius, Ezekiel. These are but a few famed Librarians. Titles: Librarians may earn titles for heroic acts. Record your Librarian's honorary titles here. Librarius ranks. As they gain experience and power, librarians progress through the ranks of the Librarius, from lexicanum to codifier to epistolary. If you can't think of what to write, choose from the charts or roll a 6-sided dice. Wargear details. Use the spaces below to record the names of your librarian's force sword. You can also record great deeds achieved with the Wargear in game. Example, slew a Necron overlord with a blow from his force sword. And you got a spot for the sword name and 2 achievements. Psychic mastery detail. Librarians in Phobos armor wield psychic powers that envelop their allies in shadow and turn the darkness against their foes. Later in your collection, you will receive rules for these psychic powers. Use the boxes here to record the powers your librarian has used and the effect each power had during the battle. Example, obliterated a royal warden with a psychic blast. And we have a couple of the psychic powers here: Smite, Shrouding, Soul Sight, Mind Raid, Hallucination, Tenebrous Curse, and Temporal Corridor. Okay, Space Marines Librarius. Each Space Marine chapter has its own Librarius, a group of warrior mystics and scholars. Space Marine librarians have spent decades mastering their psychic talents to lend their chapter wisdom and fearsome power in battle. The doors of a Librarius are sealed with arcane symbols and psychic wards. In the chambers beyond, the Space Marine librarians see to their duties. A librarian must constantly hone his mind and body through a combination of meditation, psychic training, and combat practice. Such training is necessary, for the librarian's greatest foes, the foul abominations of the warp, are ever watchful for weakness. One of the Librarius' main functions is to record the chapter's history. The archives of the Librarius are vast, stacked high with accumulated knowledge of centuries. Despite the efforts of the Librarius, it is not uncommon for valuable wisdom to be lost in these grand archives. Few chapters have a complete record of their own history. A Librarius also screens chapters' potential recruits for weakness of will and psychic ability. Those who possess great strength of mind and psychic talent are taken under the Librarius' wing to learn their arcane craft. Librarians must also be watchful for corruption in the ranks. They scour the minds of their battle brothers for heretical thoughts, knowing that the slightest taint could damn the entire chapter. Purity of mind is something that no chapter can compromise on. In the heat of battle, a librarian calls upon the warp to deliver destruction and woe to his foes. Ranks of the Librarius. Chief Librarian. The strongest and most physically powerful, or psychically powerful, librarian in the chapter holds the rank of Chief Librarian. Librarians in this position draw upon centuries of study and personal experience to offer invaluable tactical advice to their chapter masters. Epistolary. Ranking second only to the Chief Librarian, epistolaries are among the most powerful and experienced librarians. Their primary role is as a communications officer. They possess the ability to send telepathic messages across vast distances. Codicer. Lexinoms who excel in their duties may be promoted to Codicer. Codicers are responsible for evaluating and approving reports written by the Lexicanoms and finding their entry into the chapter's archives. Lexicanum. Alkalites who complete their training become Lexicanums, the lowest rank of librarian. Lexicanums are expected to fight alongside their brothers in combat. They also write detailed reports on the battles and the wars the chapter is involved in. Acolytes. Potential librarians are drawn from the Space Marine recruits who possess strength of will and great psychic power. They must go through decades of brutal training to harden their will before they become a full librarian. Psychic disciplines. The powers wielded by the librarians are many and varied. These powers are divided into psychic disciplines, each of which may take decades to master. A librarian versed in several disciplines may alter the flow of time, summon raging infernos to annihilate his foes, peer into the future to destroy the minds of opposing psychers. The only limit to a librarian's power is the strength of his will. Witchfire and Warp Flame. To see a librarian in battle is to see an unstoppable force. Crackling warp energy surrounds his armored form, his eyes lit with barely contained power. With a flick of his hands, he may alter the flow of time, allowing his allies to strike the opponent's flank before they can respond. Or he may unleash a bolt of sizzling lightning to fell a score of foes. Woe betide the enemy psyker who attempts to stop his advance, for the librarian wields this might with practice, discipline, and terrible ferocity. I myself have seen a librarian nullify the psychic powers of a chaos sorcerer before unleashing a bolt of witchfire that burned the heretic's eyes from his skull and sent him screaming into oblivion. Praise the Librarius brothers, for with them at our side, few foes can stand before the Adeptus Astratus. Lieutenant Lucian Calcis, Ultramarines, 2nd Company. Eldritch Artifice, Wargear of the Necrons. From the command barge, a Necron overlord watches its forces' superior firepower overwhelm the enemy. The armories of the Necron race are filled with technology that predates the very birth of the human race. They are as lethal as they are ancient. Necron weapons and technology are so far in advance of the galaxy's other inhabitants that only the craftwork of the similarly ancient Eldari can compare. This technology superior serves to reinforce the Necrons' belief that the galaxy is theirs by right, and that all other races are merely vermin. Each and every Pharaon, Overlord, and Lord possess a household armory filled to the brim with lethal weapons, powerful vehicles, and nigh impenetrable armor with which to equip their endless legions. In addition to weapons, armor, and vessels, the Necron race use advanced teleportation technology, allowing their commanders to deploy their mightiest formations directly from their tomb into the heart of battle. Priority alert, Adeptus Mechanicus, Ryza, report Omega ZZ-14, Pariah. Magos Timor Vesca, Explorer Feat Icarus. Extensive investigation of the battlefield, picked recordings, sensory readouts, and recovered material that has revealed next to nothing of the mechanical workings of the Necrons' weapons, armor, and equipment. The effects of said weapons, however, are well documented. Post-mortem evaluation of deceased Adeptus Astratus reveals that the melee weapons, beyond the technological expertise of even the greatest human artisans. Many of the deceased bear wounds that suggest that suggest the use of the weapons with the capacity to disintegrate flesh and part atomic structures, requiring minimal effort to slay a victim. Necron technologies are fascinating indeed. It is the hope of the Adeptus Mechanicus that continued study in their weapons and equipment will reveal further insight into their functionality. The Pariah Nexus represents the opportunity for further investigation. Melee weapons. Melee weapons are favored by the Necron nobles and their bodyguards, who wage war according to ancient Necron traditions of honor. Many of these weapons are seen as much of a symbol of status as they are potent instruments of destruction. And we have depictions of a war scythe, staff of light, rod of covenant, dispersion shield, hyperphase sword, and void blade. Hyperphase weapons. Hyperphase weapons work by vibrating across dimensions, allowing the edge of the blade to slip through armor and flesh with ease, severing vital organs and muscles beneath. Void weapons. Void weapons have blades that flicker in and out of existence. When the blade strikes a foe, it causes the victim's molecular structure to break apart, disintegrating flesh and armor. War scythe. Carried by nobles and their Lichguard protectors, the energized blades of these weapons allow them to pass through armor with minimal effort. Their blades are almost indestructible. Staff of Light. This powered staff is also capable of firing short-range bursts of energy. It is a symbol of rank and authority, and they are only borne by Necron royalty or high-ranking cryptics. A translated missive, Nephilim Sector, ZAA-413. Let the vermin come. The weapons are pathetic. Their armor provides them scant protection. Even the greatest of their warriors carry wargear that a Necron would not see fit to arm his lowest peons with. Explosives, bullets, adamantine blades. Their crude methods of making war are laughable. Our weapons possess the power to raze cities to the ground, burn the atmosphere from planets, and obliterate the stars themselves. We have bound gods to our will and turned them into weapons. We fear nothing save for the aged death of the galaxy itself. The secrets of the universe are known to us, and we shall wield them as we please. We are Necrons. The galaxy is ours. The Zelkar Cryptek of the Nilarch Dynasty. Okay, how to build Librarian in Phobos Armour. This guide shows you how to assemble your Librarian model. Carefully follow this guide, paying close attention to the instructions as you do. Okay, and we have markings here for detailed view and dry fit. Okay, and by this point we know all about the clipper and glue safety. Clipping to clip the components from the sprue. Place the flat of the blade next to the component you need and gently but firmly cut the plastic. Fragile components. When clipping fragile components, do not clip directly against the component. Leave a little of the sprue and make another clip afterwards. Components. When you have clipped all the components from the sprue, lay them out and make sure you have everything before you start assembling them. Using a mold line remover. Sometimes you'll notice mold lines or bits of uneven plastic left on the component after they have been clipped from the sprue. You can use your mold line remover to fix these imperfections. Holster. Gently but firmly press the flat of the mold line remover against the mold line or uneven plastic and draw the edge along its surface. Sword arm. Be careful when removing mold lines from fragile details. Apply very little pressure as you draw the tool across the plastic. Backpack. When working on rounded surfaces, such as the top of the backpack, use the curved edge of the mold line remover and follow its contours. Okay, step 1. Make sure you've removed any mold lines and imperfections before you assemble the model. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7. So let's get those out. And what I'm going to do with this here is I'm not going to glue the whole thing together right now. I'm going to basically do 3 sub-assemblies. I'm going to do the front and the back. And I'm going to glue the legs and arms on those. And then separately, I'm going to have the base that he stands on here glued down to the base. The reason I'm keeping them separate is because I want to be able to get the inside of his cloak and the backs of his legs. So I will, like I said, I'll leave them separate. And then after the painting of this issue, I'll just glue it all together. Actually, I'll probably leave. I won't glue it down to the base. So, because there's not much after the painting in this issue, from the finished picture of the finished model, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot that's done to the inside of the cloak. So maybe a little gray highlighting. So I should be able to get any of that by just going in from the bottom. So I'll leave it like the Primaris Captain and the Necron Overlord. And I'll just leave them not attached to their base. And then when they're completely finished, then I'll finally glue them down. But this one here looks like he actually has a little bit of an advantage here. Because he does have pegs in his boots that line up with that, so he might actually stand fairly decently on the base without it being glued. So we'll have to see how that goes. Okay, just gonna get this all good and cleaned up there. It's a little rough, but I'm not really going to see that because it's right where his head's going to be, so not too worried about that. There's the sprue mark on the holster it was referring to. A pretty rough one. Okay, it looks pretty decent. Got a little on the edge of his cloak there. Okay, where was the other? One on the okay. Must have been those three. Alright, and there's a pretty decent sized one on the hood here. Again, this hood's going to be hidden by the hood of his armor there. Well, no, maybe it won't. Okay, I stand corrected. And then you also don't want to get too aggressive on the blade of the sword there too. Okay. So we have the back here and the don't know if I like that. That might just be glued right down to the base. Okay, looks like the arm goes on like that. Our Citadel glue here. Ugh. Okay. Alright, now I'm not going to glue this just yet, but just make sure it all fits good. Those cables don't line up very good. Ah, crap. Got a little bit of glue on that back piece. Okay, we're gonna hold that there. Okay, while I'm holding that, it says glue the leg into position and allow the glue to set for a few seconds. When the glue is dried, glue the front and back together. and leave the model to dry once more. Again, I'm not doing that just yet. This is with the body assembled. Glue the head and arm into position. Okay, and the head is pretty... only really one way it can go there, so... It's not dynamic like a lot of the models are. Okay, head is in place. Sword arm is in place. And yeah, I think I'm just going to glue this onto the base. And we're going to leave it like that. Because I want to be able to get the back of that leg. Alright, let's get the rest of this guy assembled. Okay, and he is assembled. I decided to actually just go ahead and glue it all together. But I left it unglued at the feet and legs here. So I can still get the back of that boot and inside the cloak here and the back of the other leg. The other leg, it's going to be a little bit of a pain to get that, but it shouldn't be too bad. Yeah, because I noticed that the shoulder pad goes over the back, so it wouldn't be possible just to do it in two pieces. So so what the hell, put it all together, and hopefully won't have too much of a hard time back there. But I'll get them primed, and then we'll get to the painting. The Librarian is primed and ready to be painted. Okay, come off to the side. Got my paint area set up. And it says how to paint Librarian in Phobos Armour. In this guide, you'll be painting your new Librarian model. You'll need Abaddon Black, MacLeod Blue, Mechanicus Standard Gray, Corax White, Retributor Armor, and Leadbelcher. The Librarian is wearing a cloak over his power armor. The underside of the cloak needs to be painted black, and these areas can be difficult to reach. It'll be easier to undercoat the entire model with Abaddon Black before applying MacLeod Blue to the Librarian's power armor. Okay, we have step 1, 3 coats. Thin your paints so that it is 3 parts paint to 1 part water, and apply 3 coats to the model. This will give you a smooth, even finish. Step 2, it is important to allow each coat to dry before applying the next. You may need to rotate the model in order to work the brush under the cloak. 3, the areas around the legs are particularly difficult to reach. Keep rotating the model and work your brush into the gaps and recesses to coat the entire model. Finished undercoat. With the undercoat complete, you are ready to apply more colors. Make sure the Abaddon Black paint has completely dried before you go to the next page and continue following the guide. And we got our Librarian here, along with the Abaddon Black. And for this, I will be using that Citadel starter brush. I think it's safe to say I've demoted this brush to base coat and mixing and thinning paints. It's pretty pretty trash at this point. When I can get it to keep a point, it's still hooked at the end. And I've tried using boiling water to straighten it out, and it just sits. It's a lost cause. But these starter brushes are, from what I understand, very cheap anyways. So not too upset about it. But like I said, it'll be good for base coats and mixing and thinning the paints. That way I'm not ruining a good brush on that. And I'm just trying to get I've started putting brush soap on the brushes after I use them. Try and keep it trained in that point. So it's just rinsing some of that out. Okay, so we have 3 parts paint, 1 part water. 2 and 3. And get some water to thin it. Alright. Might as well just start on the inside. And I'm gonna get everything except for where the leg meets the body. I probably could paint it, but I would just rather have less layers of paint where that glue is going to be. So I'm going to try and avoid those areas as much as I can. And this paint is really thin. I feel almost like I should have went 4 parts paint to 1 part water. This is just like looks just like a wash at this point. But again, it's getting 3 coats, so should turn out just fine. And I don't know why they want to do the whole base coat black. Because yeah, I understand the inside of the cloak and the armor panels, or the joints between the panels, that is. But it just seems like a lot of paint. It's just going to get covered up. Make sure I don't have any pooling there. So what I'm going to do is once that's all, everything in this issue is painted, then I'll go ahead and glue it together. Because even then, if I have to get anything inside the cloak or behind the legs, I'll already have the good base coat down, so if the details aren't perfect, it's not that big of an issue. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and finish these base coats. I'll be back for the next color. The black base coat on the Librarian is finished, and it does look pretty smooth. So 3 coats with the 3-to-1 ratio came out pretty good. Okay, next up, we have MacLeod Blue. Says you'll now use MacLeod Blue to paint the power armor visible beneath the Librarian's robes. Thin MacLeod Blue so that it is roughly 3 parts paint to 1 part water. As with the undercoat, you'll need to apply 3 coats to these areas. Okay, number 1. Paint the armor panels. Make sure you have a fine tip on your brush and be careful not to collect too much paint on the bristles. Number 2, take care around areas that should remain black, such as the rib details between the armor panels and the Librarian's cloak and robes. Paint the face mask. Try to avoid the hood, but don't worry if you get a little blue paint on the face, as you'll be painting over this area later on. You also need to paint the Librarian's backpack and some of the less obvious details, such as the piece of armor between his legs beneath the coat. Use the image as a guide. Fixing errors. You may notice areas you've missed or where blue paint has splattered on to areas you don't want it. Go back and fix these errors now, but make sure that the model is dry before applying more paint. Okay, I have changed my water, cleaned the brush, and now I'm going to try one of these sable brushes. And I think for this, I'm going to go with a 00. And we'll see how these brushes actually do. Okay, but as usual, I'm going to use that starter brush to thin the paint here. Okay, we're going to do it just like the Bad and Black. It'll be three parts paint to 1 part water. Okay. So we got 3. Get that brush rinse really good. Okay, and thin that out. That looks perfect. And rinse that off again. Okay, set that aside. Okay. Let's see here. Let's start on that. Actually, did get some magnifier headset here. So, see if that helps me a little with that fine detail in the face. Okay. Actually, no, I don't quite need it for the face. I think that's more of a hindrance. This is a pretty big area. I'll probably need it though when I actually do the skin. Yeah, with something like this, you really want to take your time with it. You don't want that paint going everywhere. But so far, brush is working out pretty nicely. Very smooth. But I think it seems like it's getting too much paint on there. Looks like it's getting into the details in the grill. But I definitely think for the rest, I'm gonna go to a bigger brush. This take forever. But it is perfect for this job. Shoot. Great. Just had a big ball of water there on the ferrule of the brush. And it came down right on the face there. Made a big mess. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking the drying off the brush and just wicking it out of there. There we go. It's gonna need a little touch up, but that's fine because that hood's being painted gray anyways. So. Okay. So, and you know what? While I got the small brush, I'm gonna get that area between his legs here. Which again, I'm not worried about getting it on the cloak because that's gonna be repainted, so it's gonna be easier to neatly paint the cloak than it is the armor panel there. Alright, so I am going to step up to a larger brush and get all the blue done here. Okay. Alright, the cloak is done. I did end up doing 3 coats. 2 for the most part was good, but there were still spots where it was a little translucent, so I went ahead and did a 3rd coat. Okay, next up we have Corax White. So you will now apply Corax White to the Librarian's face, the cables of his armor, and the rocks on his base. As with the other coats, thin the paint so that it is roughly 3 parts paint to 1 part water, and apply 3 coats. 1. Begin by painting the rocks of the Librarian's base. Don't worry if you get white paint on the base. Just make sure to avoid the blue power armor. 2. Collect a small amount of paint on your brush and paint the face. Be careful to avoid the mask and the hood. Try to use the tip of your brush. 3. Carefully paint the ribbed cables running from the shoulders to the backpack, as well as the cables running from the base to the face to the force sword. Okay, check both sides of the model to make sure you're happy with the results. Tidy up any errors before moving on to the next stage. Fixing your mistakes. Did you get any white paint on the gray, black, or blue areas? Let the paint dry thoroughly, then go back and fix it by applying more Mechanicus Standard Gray, Abaddon Black, or McCraig Blue as required. Okay, so I think I'm just going to get that face out of the way. So I'll start with that with the 00 detail brush. Again, we're doing 3 parts paint, 1 part water. And 3. Okay, that mixed nice and good there. Okay. Now, sure brush is good to go. Getting excess water off there. Now I'm going to try that magnifying headset there. Because this one is not going to be fun. Not quite sure what's the best angle to go with this. Okay, this one is not easy. You really want to avoid the cloak and mask. I'm getting a little on the mask. So that's going to have to be touched up, but might as well finish the face, so touch it up at the end. Yeah, getting a little on the cloak too. Actually, you know what? I don't even think I'm going to touch it up at the end. I think I'm just gonna wait until the face is finished painting, because at some point I'm going to have to go back over this with a flesh color. So I might as well fix it then. Or, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I will touch it up. We'll see. We'll see how I feel when I get to that point. Damn. Getting a lot of white on the mask there. Okay, well, that's one coat on his mask. Or on his face. I think actually I missed a little. Right in there. Okay. So, finished with that one for now. So I'm ready to go back and do more coats. Let's get the base here. I'm just going to do carefully around the boot here. And then I don't have to worry so much about being neat. I believe the next issue we get our first wash, which is Egrax Earthshade. So I don't know if this if they're just going to do that right over the white on these and other models that have painted rocks, or if there's going to be another color that it gets painted first. So I don't know, but it does make me wonder why you're basically basing something like 3 different colors. Like this right here is it was base coated black. I'm going back and base coating it white, and I'm pretty sure that's not going to be the final color. So there'll be another base coat on top of that. So you would think you'd just leave just the primer. But I'm not an expert, so. We're almost done with this base here. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this painted up. And the white details are finished. And as neat as I could anyways. And on the base here. Okay. And next we have Leave Retributor Armor. Yes. Okay, metallic paints such as Retributor Armor require slightly less thinning. Aim for a ratio of 4 parts paint to 1 part water. You will need to apply 2 or 3 coats of this paint in order to get a smooth, even finish. Begin by painting the trim on the Librarian's shoulder pads. Make sure your brush has a fine tip, and only collect a small amount of paint on the bristles. Number 2, pick out the keys and icons hanging from the Librarian's waist. The details on the book and the icons on the gloves and backpack of the Librarian's armor. 3, paint the whole sword's hilt. You'll need to rotate the model and angle it so that you can reach the underside with your brush. There are several small gold icons on the Librarian model. Make sure you have painted those on the gloves as well as the icon hanging on his chest. Take a closer look at the detail of the holster and the power sword. Make sure you have everything painted before you set your model aside. Okay, so going to Retributor Armor now. Make sure I have Retributor Armor and not Rimlord Brass. I've made that mistake before. Alright. Okay, so this we want 4 scoops. 3 and 4. Okay. Alright. Paint is thinned. And I think yeah, I think I'm going to use I'll go ahead and use the number 1 brush on the bigger stuff and then get the detail brush out there for the rest. Because there is a lot of fine detail here. So I'm going to start with the hilt of the sword here. And more paint on my brush than that. And that's going to be going pretty much up to here. Yeah, I'm not worrying too much about being neat because the blades can be painted with the lead belcher. And I want to get the sides of these so that gold goes right down to the blade. Okay, I think that cable's supposed to be painted. Yeah. Metallics are a little difficult to work with, but also very rewarding. Because when they're good, they're good. Just takes a little extra effort sometimes. Alright, well, I'm going to go ahead and finish up doing the gold here. And then we can get on to the last step. Okay, the gold details are finished. And done fairly neat. Alright, that brings us to the last step for this week. Lead Belcher. The final stage for now is to paint the silver detail on the Primaris Librarian. Lead Belcher is a metallic paint, so it should be thinned roughly 4 parts paint to 1 part water. It's always a good idea to shake your paint gently before opening it. Paint the entire blade of the Force Sword. You may need to rotate the model as you paint so that you can reach the underside of the blade. 2. Paint the vents at the base of the backpack, as well as the circular vents on top of the backpack. Use the gallery of the model below as a guide. 3. Paint the buckles and clasps on the Librarian's belt and the straps on his camo cloak. These appear on the backpack as well. Finished model. There are a few extra silver details that require painting, such as these nodes on the back of the Psychic hood. Use these images as a guide. Make sure you paint the buckle on the cover of the Librarian's book and the grip of the holstered pistol. When you're happy with your finished model, set it aside to dry, ready for this issue's playthrough. Okay. So, get the Lead Belcher. And palette's looking a little crowded. One, 2, 3, and 4. Got a little overzealous with that one. Sure. And I'm going to start with that blade there. Actually, I want to start with the detail brush, because I don't want to mess up the Retributor armor here. Just want to be very careful around that. There we go. And then the rest I can use the bigger brush on. Alright, let's get this blade painted. Alright, so I got around that. So I'm not... Oh, got the bottom. Spoke too soon. There we go. Now I'm going to use the number 1 brush to paint the rest of the blade. Not as smooth as the Retributor armor was. Hopefully a second coat will look a little better. Make sure I got the sharp edge of the blade there. Okay, that don't look too bad. Alright. Okay, I'm going to do all the silver on this. And we'll come back for the playthrough. Okay, well, the Librarian has been finished off for this week. And since I won't be messing around with underneath the cloak anymore, except maybe highlights, that might be a little bit of a problem. But I've glued them down, and that's as good as you can go. Alright, well, we'll see you next week. And for this week's playthrough, we have the Psychic Assault. A master of psychic powers, the Librarian stalks the corridors of the Necron crypts in search of his battle brothers. As he attempts to navigate the obsidian depths, connectic scarabs scurry forth from their hiding places, intent on devouring the Librarian before he can bring his warp powers to bear. Mission briefing. The Space Marine Vanguard have been dispatched to locate and assist our battle brothers on Magaria. First to breach in the Necron's lair is the Primaris Librarian. Unfortunately, his movements have attracted the attention of a swarm of connectic scarabs and the Royal Warden. Necrons purge and devour. Throughout the Necron crypts, synaptic scarabs have been redirected from their repair and construction tasks to attack and destroy the intruders. The movements of the Primaris Librarian have attracted the attention of these lethal creatures. Under the direction of the Royal Warden, they scuttle and soar towards their prey. Space Marines smite the Necrons. Clad in camo cloak and Phobos armor, the Primaris Librarian moves stealthily, using his psychic powers to track his allies through the alien complex. Before he can lend his warp powers to the Space Marine forces, he must survive the Scarab's ambush. Doing so will require the use of sword, bolt pistol, and its potent psychic might. Okay, set up. Lay out the large battle mat. Gather your dice, range ruler, and wound marker. Set up your models in the positions shown to the right. Models in each unit must be set up in unit coherency. The Cerb swarms must be placed wholly within the 5 inches of the mat's edge. Choose who will be the Necron player and who will be the Space Marine player. It says how to use printed terrain. The man has images of terrain models that come with later issues of Imperium. The images do not affect games. Ignore them when moving your models. Okay, and I forgot to grab the range ruler and I just dumped all my wound markers. Nice. Okay. there is the ruler. Okay, so we'll set the scarabs up here at A. Rewarding. Okay, the cat just knocked something over. Okay, so Librarian on C. Okay, rules. This page contains the data sheets and new rules you will need in order to follow the issue's playthrough. You will also need to have rules reference section A, playthrough 10 to hand. Read through the new rules and data sheets below before you turn to the playthrough. Okay, got the Librarian with all his stats. He has a bolt pistol and force sword. And Psyker. This model can manifest psychic power in your psychic phase. It knows the smite psychic power shown to the right. And over here we have Psyker. This model may attempt to manifest psychic powers in the psychic phase. Smite. A psychic test of 5+ is required to manifest this power. If manifested, the closest visible enemy unit within 18 inches will suffer D3 mortal wounds. Okay, and the Royal Warden Scarabs both have living metal. They regenerate 1 each turn. And the feeder mandibles on this kinetic scarab, each time an attack is made with this weapon, an unmodified hit roll of 6 automatically wounds the target. And it has the fly ability. This model can fly. See how to fly below. Mortal wounds. Some weapons and abilities inflict mortal wounds. Each mortal wound inflicts 1 point of damage on the target unit. And they are always applied one at a time. No saving throws, not even invulnerable saves, can be made against mortal wounds. Some rules, such as Librarian Smite Power, require you to roll a D3. Roll a D6 on the table below to do so. So, just like rolling with the random charts, it's half. Okay, how to fly. Models with fly can move over other models when they make a normal move, advance, fall back, or charge. Models with fly can ignore vertical distances when they make a normal move, and advance, or when they fall back. Models with fly can be moved within engagement range of enemy models, but cannot end their move within engagement range of enemy models. Okay. So they can move through it, they just can't stop there. Okay, Space Marines turn 1. The Librarian must destroy his Xenos enemy so he can reunite with his allies. He moves towards the Necrons, summoning he has psychic power to unleash it on them. Primaris Librarian moves closer to the Necron before manifesting his psychic power and firing his pistol. Okay, the Librarian wields potent psychic powers. The Space Marine player must use Must pass a psychic test to manifest them. Follow the playthrough. Use the example at the bottom of the page if you need help. Okay, move. The Librarian stalks towards the Necrons, ensuring he is close enough to use his psychic powers. Well, it was 18 inches, so it's actually in plenty of range. But we'll move him up a little more. What's his? He has a move of 6. So, yeah, we'll put him right here. Actually, go back a little more. Okay, Psychic. The Primarius Librarian summons forth his psychic powers and unleashes them upon the Necrons. The Librarian may attempt to manifest Smite. The Space Marine player must take a psychic test. Space Marine player rolls 2 dice and compare the combined result to the Smite's warp charge value of 5. Okay, so passes the psychic test. If the result is 5 or greater, the psychic test is a success. If the roll is less than 5, the psychic test fails. If the psychic test is successful, the Space Marine player rolls a d3. The closest visible enemy suffers that many mortal wounds. Okay, so that would be 2 wounds. And the Scarabs have 4. So, say this guy in the front takes 2. Okay, the Necron player allocates each mortal wound as they would a wound from a normal attack. See attack sequence on the rules reference page A, playthrough 10. However, unlike normal attacks, save rolls cannot be made. Each mortal wound inflicts 1 point of damage. Excess damage from mortal wounds is not lost. Keep allocating damage to another model of the target unit until all damage has been allocated or the target unit is destroyed. Okay. Librarian raises his pistol to shoot the Necrons. If eligible, shoot with the Librarian. Follow the attack sequence and rolls section of playthrough A10 to resolve the attacks. Okay, so he's gonna go ahead and shoot with his pistol, which has... Okay, he's got 4 attacks. Check down here. Okay. So okay, 4 attacks. And his ballistic skill is 3. So he gets 3 hits. And his strength is 4. Scarab's toughness is 3. So he has a higher strength. So he would hit on a 3, I believe. Yes, 3. Okay, so 2 of them wound. And let's see if they... Ooh, they don't have a very good save. It's 6 plus. Okay, so it doesn't save. 1 Scarab unit is down. Okay. The Librarian charges towards the Necron, channeling his psychic energy into the blades of his Force Sword and unleashing it at the foe. The Librarian may now charge towards the Necrons before engaging them in melee combat. As well as being a powerful psyker, the Librarian is a mighty warrior who wields a deadly Force Sword. Follow the playthrough and use the examples at the bottom of the page if you need help. Charge. Having manifested his psychic power, the Librarian closes in on connected scarabs. Use how to charge in the rule reference of the section, A playthrough 10. If charging multiple enemy units, models from the charging unit must be able to reach a model in each enemy unit or the charge is failed. Okay, so it's charging. Okay, 6. That is plenty. Yeah. Okay. Fight. The Primary's Librarian engages the Scarabs in melee combat. Use the fight sequence in the rules section of A playthrough 10 to fight with all eligible units. Each unit can only fight once. Alright, let's see here. We got 2 enemies. He has 4 attacks. And the strength is user +1. So that actually makes his strength a 5. I messed up on that first attack. I was looking at wounds. Oh no, his strength is still higher than the Scarab, so that doesn't matter. Okay, so needs a 3 to hit. Yeah, needs a 3 to hit, 3 to wound. Yeah, I'm not going to take any chances. I'm just going to do all 4 on 1. Well, I'd have to because they have 4 wounds. Okay, 4 hits. Oh god, that's horrible. 1 wound. And no save. So, put a wound on him. Okay, a unit within engagement range 1 inch of enemy fights. Models not touching the enemy can pile in 3 inches. Pile-in moves must end closer to the enemy unit. Units must end in coherency. Select the target unit for each model's attacks. Models can only attack. Models can only attack a unit when in their engagement zone. If the unit is attacking more than 1 enemy unit. Resolve all attacks against the target before moving on to the next. Follow the attack sequence in rules playthrough A, playthrough 10. Okay, so that's the end of the Space Marine turn. But at the end of that fight sequence, the Scarabs are going to pile in and counterattack. And there's 2 of them. And we each have an attack of 4. And their
weapon skill is 4+. So there's 1, 2, 3. Oh, those are automatic ones. Okay, so we're looking at 4 potential ones here. But he takes 2 right off the bat. Now, since their strength is lower than Librarian's toughness, they need a 5. Okay, 1 wound. Okay, so we know those 2 automatic wounds. He can't roll the save, but he can for that 1 single wound. And needs a 3 or better. Ooh, and he doesn't. Okay, so he takes 3 wounds. Okay, now it is the Necron's turn. The Royal Warden stays at range, firing his relic Gauss Blaster, while the Scarab swarms fall back, flying away from the Librarian. The surviving Necrons now take their turn, moving, shooting, charging, and fighting the Librarian. Having weathered the Librarian's deadly assault, the Necrons may attempt to shoot and strike back. Following the playthrough, use examples at the bottom of the page if you need help. Move. The Necrons move to an advantageous location on the battlefield. Follow the How to Move in the Rules section, playthrough A10. Okay, so they are going to fall back. Their movement is 10 inches. So, oh, and that is healed. So they're going to fly over the Librarian, back here. Okay, now they cannot charge later. So they're pretty much done right now. Shoot. The Royal Warden now fires its relic Gauss Blaster. Actually, he's gonna want to move first and get within the range is 30, so he wants to get within 15 inches, which he probably is. Here, we'll just put him within 12 inches. Okay, and his attack is 3, but being within half the range of his weapon, it's doubled to 6. And his ballistic skill is 3. Ooh. Okay. So we have 5 hits here. And he's already got 2 wounds, so this might be ending pretty quickly here. Now the Royal Warden is stronger and tougher than Librarian, so that's going to bring his wound down to a 3. So, 3 wounds. And the Librarian needs a 3 to save. Looks like he saved 2 of them, so he took 1 more wound. Is that 4? 1 more hit and he's dead. did not anticipate needing to use a 4-wound marker. Okay, and see, the Necrons may now charge towards the Librarian. Use how to charge, the rules reference section of playthrough. Oh, I might have just screwed the Royal Warden. I don't think. I'm gonna have to roll 2 6s. I'd have laughed if that was. Okay, so he fails the charge. So he is done. Okay, back to the Space Marine. Okay, the Librarian must destroy the remaining Necrons before they overwhelm him. To do so, he will need to use all his psychic might, as well as his pistol and force sword. The Librarian may now move, manifest another psychic power, and shoot his bolt pistol. The Librarian may now go back on the offensive, summoning his psychic powers once more, and bringing his pistol to bear. Move. The Librarian may move to an advantageous position. And so he's going to close the distance on the Royal Warden here. Okay, Psychic. The Primaris Librarian summons forth his psychic powers and unleashes them upon the Necrons. The Librarian may attempt to manifest Smite. The Space Marine player must first make a psychic test. The Space Marine player rolls 2 dice and compares the result to the Smite's warp charge value of 5. Okay. So, let's hope for some good rolls here. Alright, 6. So, and yeah, the Royal Warden was clearly the closest target. And a 3, so that's 2 mortal wounds for the Royal Warden. I might be able to take him out. Okay. Shoot. The Primaris Librarian may shoot at any Necrons in range. If eligible, shoot with the Librarian. Okay. Definitely throwing all 4 shots at the Royal Warden. Because its difficulties can be increased by 1 because he has a higher toughness than the Librarian's strength. So I'll need 4s. Oop, okay. 2 hits. Oh, wait a minute. No, I take that back. That's only for the wound, yes? Yeah, that's only for the wound. Okay, so that's 4 hits. And 1 wound. And the Royal Warden does not save. Okay, so he's got 1 hit left. That's odd. Okay, So he's still got a charge phase. So he's going to try and finish off this warden here. Okay, he's got a 6, and remember from measuring before, he is almost exactly 6 inches away. Okay. Let's see here. His force sword is user +1. Okay, so that brings him to 5, which is equal with the warden. He needs a 3 to hit. Okay, he's got 2 hits. And he needs a 4 to wound. 1 wound. Let's see here. Low roll. Low roll. Ah. Okay, the Royal Warden survives it. And that ends the turn. Okay, now the Royal Warden could fight, but it would just be that basic melee weapon, so he's going to instead fall back and take his move of 6 inches. And the scarabs have 10 inches. That is not within... well, they're going to just take the 10 inches and then charge, since they have no ranged attack anyways. Okay. Now their manables. Strength is user. Damage is 1. Oh, you know what? Oh. The Royal Warden is actually... wait a minute. Yeah, the Royal Warden is dead. I just realized that the Force Sword has an armor piercing of 3. So the Royal Warden would have had to roll a 6. Or did he roll a 6? I can't remember what that roll was. So I'm going to re-roll it. And it is not a 6. Royal Warden is done. Okay, that even things out a little bit. Okay, so... but... that's not one yet, because... these guys can hurt. Oh, they need a 3 to hit. Hit. Oh, God. Okay, we got 7 hits. Now they need a... I believe they need a 5 or better now to wound, because of the strength toughness difference. And 2 wounds. Okay. They got 2 wounds. Just need to roll 2 3s. Or better. Okay. Survives the attack. And he gets to respond by attacking himself. And gets 1 hit. Okay, and his strength is higher than their toughness, so he needs a 3 or better. Okay, that's a wound. And yeah, that save isn't even possible for them. Because their save is a 6, and the armor piercing is 3. So it doesn't even matter. Oh no, it's their turn. So 1 wound. Oh, actually, the Force Sword is a D3 damage. So 3, so that's actually 2 wounds. Okay, now back to the Librarian's turn. And he has a pistol, so he can shoot within engagement range. Okay, he gets 2 hits. And 2 wounds. And roll for saves. They save 1. Okay. Oh. Damn it. Okay, technically I skipped right over the psychic phase, but I'm just gonna do it now. And he fails and wins. Okay. You do 2 attacks on each one. So for the first one, nothing. The second one that's already wounded gets 2 hits. One wound. And again with the armor piercing of 3, it's an impossible save. It's down to 1. Back to the Scarab's turn. And again, unable to. Well, nah, he's gonna back off. Okay, and that would end that turn. Go back to the Librarian. He's gonna move. Let's see here. He'll move his full 6 inches. Attempt to smite. Fails. Okay. Gonna shoot with his pistol. 3 hits. 2 wounds. No save. Okay, now charge in. Try and finish him off. 3 hits. Three wounds. And again, impossible save, because they have a save of 6, plus the 3 from the armor piercing. But just for the hell of it, let's see how much damage it would have been. Ooh, there's 3, 7, 6, 8. That would be 8 damage. Okay. Well, that is it for this week's playthrough and this issue of Warhammer 40k Imperium. And I'll be back next week with the next issue. See you then.